Even when President Muhammad Buhari did not want him to become the president of Nigeria because he is afraid of him, the northern elders is also afraid of him. There is one man in Nigeria who knows how to play the politics, who knows how to do things according to his own way, who have been following the policies of Nigeria, right? Even during the time of June 12th election, he was there as a master planner, who is now the president of Nigeria. In this particular video, I am going to play you to see how President Ahmed Bola Tinubu become the president of Nigeria, beating all odds to win the party primary of the APC, against what people has been speculating and saying that Tinubu and the Buhari have an agreement that he will help Buhari to become the president of Nigeria. After his 8-year tenure, he is going to hand over to Ahmed Tinubu, who will become the president of Nigeria. But in this interview that was conducted by Edmond Obiro of State of Affairs Studio, narrated a man who wrote a book, an insider who knows what happened during the 2015 election, 2019 election, and even the 2023 election, how Muhammad Buhari did not want Tinubu to become the president, but as against all their plan against Tinubu finally become the party flag bearer and eventually won the election. Hear him as he gives an inside story on how the election were conducted and what happened and how Tinubu become the flag bearer of the APC and eventually become the president of Nigeria against the wish and plan of former president of Nigeria, Muhammad Buhari, and all the northern governors and northern elders who did not want to zone the presidency to the south. But eventually, the man who know how to play the game defeat them all, both in the primary and the presidential election. Hear this story and drop your comment at the comment section if you have any, so that the speculation Nigerians were saying will put to an end how this man become the president of Nigeria. Tinubu, the man they called Jagaban. Thank you very much, and please watch the video.
Peacocks and vampires around him did not want him. Some stakeholders in the country did not only resent him, they were afraid of him. The plot thickened quickly. Conspiracies festered in sewers and in the open. And it began with the party's top brass. In cahoots with the presidential cabal, they edged out Adams Oshomole's executive as the first major step to immobilize Tinubu's ambition. I just read from this insightful book entitled Beating All Odds, Diaries and Essays on How Bola Tinubu Became President. That's the book I just read from this book. The author of this book is Sam Omatsei, a renowned journalist. He is my guest on State Affairs. Mr. Masai, it's good to have you on State Affairs.
It's my pleasure.
Buhari didn't want him.
Yeah?
How?
Buhari didn't want him because he was afraid of him. The people around him didn't want him. Remember that after Buhari became president, within a year, there was estrangement between Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Muhammadu Buhari. And the story even went so far as to state that they wanted to remove his pass to the State House. That probably happened or didn't happen, I'm not sure of that. But that was the level of the estrangement. But again, he knew that if Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not come to his side, his desire for a second term would be difficult because the structure and the genius of Bola Tinubu might immobilize his capacity to get a second term. So he befriended him again for a second term. It was after the second term was guaranteed in an election that they started to plot against him. And one of the first things they did was to take over the party structure. That is, the party top brass from him. Because they found that Adams Oshiomhole was his man. And if Adams Oshiomhole is head of the party, it will be difficult. It was not him alone. Some governors did not want that to happen. That is, they didn't want Asiwaju to stay right high in the party. Of course, the cabal around him, the men around Buhari, didn't want him. So they removed Oshiomhole, and that was the first step towards it. If you remember that time, they were talking about a consensus candidate, and the person who said it even was not there to even survive the primaries in his own party. Instead, that was Udo Edehe. He said, we are going to have a consensus candidate as president. So they couldn't get that working. So let me not go so far. But they dreaded the capacity of the man to do things like he's doing today. That if he was allowed to ride to become president, then nobody could control him. That was the reason. You can't control Tinubu, but he could control any other person if he protected them.
How did he react to that earlier alienation from the presidency after the 2015 election? How did Tinubu react to it?
Well, Tinubu was not happy. I personally met him, was not happy. But it was not a man who would relent from supporting the party. Because he said, I built APC. I can't leave APC. So we have to be in this party together. There were moves, including some people who are in APC today, to move him away from the APC to serve as presidential candidate against Buhari in 2019. They were making moves. He was aware of that. But he told them, I cannot leave the house that I built.
By the 2015 election, by the
Yes.
time of the 2015 election,
Yes.
was there any insinuation that Tinubu was interested in the presidency after Buhari?
Yes, people knew that he was interested.
He had always
Some
been
people
interested.
knew that he was interested, yes. He didn't really hide it that much that he was interested.
So Buhari knew he was interested.
Buhari knew he was interested.
Was there a deal before Buhari won the 2015 primaries of the APC?
No, there was no deal that I'm aware of.
There was no deal.
I don't think there was any deal.
There was no deal that after you,
I
it is me.
believe there was a tacit understanding that if this man works to put you there, if he had an ambition also to come there, it was only natural for you to be in sync with him. But he didn't get it. He didn't cry over it. All he wanted to do was work for it. And you could see that even when he wanted to run, when he decided to run, he went to the president to say, look, I am running, to formally tell him I'm running for the president of the country. He didn't want to announce it the day he announced it. He didn't want to because he was planning, I think he announced it earlier in January, but immediately after the holidays, or late January, or maybe he was supposed to announce it late January, but he was ambushed by reporters and he didn't want to tell them why he went to see the president. And he told me, well, since the reporters came around him and they asked him why he went then, so I just told them.
That was when he mentioned his lifelong ambition.
Yes, lifelong ambition, yes.
So at that point...
He didn't intend to announce it that day.
Oh.
Yeah, he didn't. He wanted to make a more formal announcement. But, Tinubu always understands the moment. So he said, well, let me just seize this moment and announce it.
He understands the moment.
He understands the moment.
Because if you read this book,
Yeah.
you would see an author who likes Tinubu,
Yes.
an author who claims to understand Tinubu.
To an extent.
To an extent. Now, if you read this book, you would agree that Tinubu is a strategic thinker.
Yes.
What makes him a strategic thinker?
Well, that's a very good question to ask. He's a strategic thinker because he has always been a survivor. And for Nigeria, there are two things that people must understand about Tinubu to make him what he is. I can describe him as somebody who descended from the sky and erupted from the earth simultaneously.
You are a poet.
So that is what he is. He's a grassroots man. His mother, Iyaloja, was a grassroots woman in the market, a leader of the market. And you cannot get more grassroots than the market. He was unconsciously understudying his mother in the grassroots sense, understanding how it was in the grassroots, how people behave, their instincts, their motivations, their attitudes, their vocabulary. He understood them at the grassroots. Then don't forget that it was at the echelon of corporate Nigeria with Mobile, where he was treasury, was number 3, was the most senior Nigerian in Mobile before he became a senator. So he understood, as I said, he descended from the sky. He understands the corporate world. He knows how to speak English with you when you want to speak it. He knows how to discuss the ins and outs of economic theory with you when you want to discuss it. Then if you go to the grassroots, he knows how to discuss Amala with you. He knows how to discuss how to speak with the area boys. He knows the language to use to discuss with them. So that's why I say he descends from the sky and erupts from the earth simultaneously. So he understands the oppressor, he understands the oppressed. So he understands the language of the oppressor, he understands the oppressed. So when people talk about Tinubuism, that is what it is. It is about a man who grasps both the elite and the grassroots at the same time and can conjoin them seamlessly.
In Nigeria, a president is powerful.
Yes.
He is the most powerful.
Yes.
And when I read here that Buhari didn't want him,
yes.
If Buhari didn't want him, would he have gotten the APC ticket?
Well, he did.
So what happened?
That's the humble. That is stressed.
What happened?
What happened? It's a very good question. Let me tell you a story which many people don't know. When some governors, let me put it this way, when Atiku Abubakar emerged as the candidate for the PDP, People's Democratic Party, some governors from the north, about 5 of them, I won't mention them, went to see Buhari. And they said that if Atiku could emerge as candidate, they didn't see anybody who could beat, if Atiku emerged as candidate, they didn't see anybody who could beat Atiku from the south. So they said the president should consider picking a candidate from the north. So the candidates were told by the president, Buhari, that time, okay, go and give me a list of possible contenders. And then they went back and drew a list of all of themselves. That's 5. Then look at the list and say, look at these people. They are recommending themselves.
Who are these governors?
They're governors from the north.
You know their names?
I don't want to mention their names.
Okay.
No, so
Why don't you want to mention their names?
Well, some of them, the information was given to me in confidence, so that's why I don't want to mention their names. So Buhari now told Ahmed Lawan. He said they should send a message to Ahmed Lawan to start preparing.
Buhari said that?
Send message to Ahmed Lawan. I'm telling you, good authority.
Interesting.
That he should start preparing. You remember during the primaries that Tinubu, after I won the primaries, he gave it to Ahmed Lawan and said, you went to contest against me. In other words, in spite of all I did to you, I that saved you from so many situations, you went to contest against me.
He gave it to him
He
privately?
gave it to him publicly. After I won, when he was giving his speech, it was there, it was in public space. He said it. So he told Lawan. So he sent text messages to the head of the Northern Governors Forum, that is Lalong, the governor of Plateau State then, that he wanted to see him.
Buhari sent message to Lalong?
Yes, that's what I learned. That he sent a message to Lalong. Lalong had not obliged. Perhaps because he also had an inclination to another candidate who was not in the north. So, the information about the 5 candidates meeting Buhari now leaked to other governors in the north.
Governors like El-Rufai?
Specifically, El-Rufai. And El-Rufai was not happy because he was not one of them. That's my reading. He was not one of them. He was angry, so mobilized other people that they had to hold a meeting. They called the head of the Governors Forum in the north, Lalong. Well, Lalong was also holding back. They didn't hold a meeting. Buhari also wanted to see him. They didn't hold a meeting. He was also stalling until it got to a point when the primaries were now getting very close, and Lalong had a specific instruction from the president to see him on a particular day at about 2 p.m. So, in order to give the report of the northern governors to the president, now Lalong summoned a meeting in Abuja earlier that day. The northern governors were there. It was acrimonious until it became conclusive. So most of the governors now decided, since they could not decide who among them will be picked to run for governor, to run for president, they now wrote a long memorandum saying that they are now ceded the presidency to the South.
So the struggle initially was who among them should be picked?
Yes.
So when they could not reach a consensus,
It was not an unselfish decision to concede it to the South. It was not unselfish.
interesting.
They were not doing charity to the South. They just couldn't get somebody among them.
So was
no consensus.
Was Tinubu lucky?
That is part of that's what Shakespeare said. He said there's a divinity in the lives of men. No matter how rough hewn it is, there's a divinity at work in the lives of men.
So if they had reached a consensus,
it would have been problematic.
Look at what you wrote here. You said, I had said once to him, that is Tinubu, that I didn't fear the general election, but only the party primary.
Yeah.
Little did I know that once the party wheel horses failed at the primary, they would move their artillery to the final battleground. Sama Masaye continues. If you win the primary, you will have nothing to fear, I had declared in my naivety. Tinubu did not say a word in reply, only a smile, half quizzical, half knowing. You write well.
Thank you.
Very close to the primary, though, we spoke on the phone, and I wondered if he was wary of the moves among other contestants. I asked him if he had a plan B in case the party cabal wrung the ticket from him. Why did you ask him of plan B?
Because I was thinking, will you just fall over? Will you just collapse your system or your ambition if they try to say, okay, we have given it to somebody else, and you're not going to run on APC ticket? So I wanted to know, would you rally behind the person, or will you think of getting a ticket elsewhere?
Did he give you any answer?
I thought I put it there in the book.
I want you to tell us.
No, he said he didn't see anything on the horizon. And he told me once, he said that, that he was going to win.
You said here he did not sound worried.
No, he didn't.
I wanted to know if he might contemplate another platform.
Okay, exactly.
Or party, or if he tended to fight it early or preempt any move to foist another candidate. His voice was aplomb.
Aplomb, yes.
So you could say destiny pushed it to him.
Yes.
So after facing that hurdle,
Yeah.
after the northern governors had to say, let's move it to the south.
Let me tell you, when the northern governors decided, not all of them did. I think the Kogi governor exempted himself because he too wanted to run.
That's Yaya Bello.
Yaya Bello. 3 of them, of the governors, were supposed to report the decision of the northern governors to Buhari. So 3 of them, including Lalong, were to go to report it to Buhari. But everybody entered their own cars with their own convoy. When Lalong reached there, discovered was the only one there. The other 2 governors were not there.
Who were the other 2 governors?
I don't really know. The 2 of them, they were not there. So, he said, I'm here, I'm the head, so I'll go to see the president. When he reached there, the scope, that's the chief of protocol, said Buhari was not available to see. Apparently, the information had already leaked to the presidency, and the presidency was not happy about the outcome. But there were other meetings too. After the decision there were other meetings held between the governors and the president. And the president asked Lalong to make the case for the presidency to go south. According to those who were there, they said he held a pen and a paper, that's Buhari. He wanted to take notes. Well, by the time Lalong was done, he dropped his pen. He didn't take any notes. I know that the secretary to the federal government that time,
That's Boss Mustafa.
was there. I'm not sure I think his chief of staff was also there with him. And so when that had happened, Buhari seemed to have relented. He didn't challenge them. But he had made up his mind that it was for Ahmed Lawal. So that's why you saw that Ahmed Lawan was insistent on his what do you call it, candidacy. A lot of things happened that time. You know, the vice president was running, Rotimi Amechi was running, and many of them were given false hope, I don't know why, by the people around the president that they were actually the anointed one.
But Lawan was the anointed one.
Lawan was the anointed one. But I don't think the Holy Spirit was in that anointing, if we put it that way. because at the last moment, before they went to the Eagle Square, also they went for the primaries, the service chiefs wanted to see the president to try to say, okay, where do you want us to go? What direction do you want us to go? As if they wanted to get a specific order and instruction. So when they came to see the president also said, what are you people doing here? You go there and just do your job. So they left the whole thing free of any intervention.
So Buhari did not intervene?
Didn't.
So at that point, you would say Buhari did well, right?
He did well, yes.
He did well?
He did well.
If he had intervened?
We don't know what would have happened, because people who were going to be, their delegates were already there. They already knew who they were voting for. So if he was going to intervene, I think it was too late, if you asked me.
At that time?
At that time.
Was Buhari politically naive? Because
that is a matter to be determined in future. But you can say that Asiwaju Tinubu was politically lucky.
Because I'm wondering, with the enormous powers of the president,
yes,
he would have swung the primary to his own candidate.
Yes, but you know that he first said that he was not going to interfere in the primary.
Yes.
Then later, he came out with a very vague expression. I've forgotten what the expression was, where he said that they should allow him to intervene. I did one of my columns on that and analyze the use of language in that the grammar of politics. My column there, grammar of politics, in which you use one expression that they should allow him leverage. And we didn't know what it meant when he said that. And so it looked like it was either doubtful of his moral capacity or awed by his political prowess.
Or was it that Buhari was Machiavellian? Because in your writings, you always quote Machiavelli. You always make reference to the prince in some of your articles.
In some of them, yeah.
You know, perhaps he wanted Tinubu, but he was just dancing around deception in politics. And when it mattered most, he said, okay, let's go, knowing fully well that Tinubu was already in control of the delegates.
If Buhari comes to tell me that, then I will call him the greatest strategist in Nigerian history.
Perhaps I'm telling you now.
Maybe. If he says that, then it means that he created a great decoy.
Because that's what I'm saying. Because he had the power to swing it.
He had the power. He had the power to swing it.
And he did not do that.
He did not do it.
And he left it.
He left it.
Tinubu
but he had started it. But he probably was overawed by the machine that was already in place. Because while he was working the other guys to his men to support Ahmed Lawan, the governors didn't seem to get any direct order from the governors, because if he had given direct orders to the governors, they wouldn't be coming with lists and they wouldn't be fighting among themselves about who in the north should represent us and who should not.
Perhaps he wanted to wear them out and create the path for
Asiwaju. That would be a great. That would be a great strategy.
And
he himself, unless he says it, nobody will believe him. And if he says it, some people will say it was an afterthought. So no matter how he takes it, if it was true, then it was true because he thought about it after all. It's like the a slapstick. You know, you feel the pain after the slap.